The spacecraft descended slowly through the thick, swirling clouds of Zorath, a planet that had only been discovered months earlier by deep space probes. The crew inside was tense but excited, their mission clear yet daunting: make first contact with an alien species and establish peaceful relations. Commander Alex Carter sat in the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls as he guided the craft toward the surface. Beside him, Rachel Myers, the team's lead scientist, adjusted her glasses while staring out the viewport at the strange landscape below. Ryan Kelly, the communications expert, double-checked his translation devices, while Lavra Bennett, the biologist, reviewed notes on possible life forms they might encounter. In the back, Daniel Hayes, the engineer, tinkered nervously with tools, ensuring everything was ready for whatever lay ahead. As they broke through the final layer of clouds, the view became clearer. Below them stretched vast plains covered in glowing blue grass, interrupted occasionally by towering structures that resembled giant hives. These structures pulsed faintly with light, creating an eerie yet mesmerizing effect. "Looks like we found our hosts," Alex said calmly, though his heartbeat quickened. He brought the ship down gently near one of the larger hive-like buildings, careful not to disturb anything around them. Once landed, the team donned their protective suits and stepped cautiously onto the alien soil. The air smelled metallic, and the ground felt soft underfoot, almost spongy. It didn't take long for the Valens to appear. They emerged from the nearest hive structure, moving with deliberate slowness. Tall and slender, their bodies were covered in shiny exoskeletons that reflected the dim sunlight filtering through the atmosphere. Their elongated limbs ended in delicate claws, and their large, multifaceted eyes glimmered with intelligence. At the front of the group stood Zareth, the leader, easily recognizable by the intricate patterns etched into his carapace. His presence commanded respect, even from the humans who had no prior knowledge of Valen customs. Alex raised his hand in what he hoped was a universal gesture of peace. Zareth tilted his head slightly, studying the humans with evident curiosity. Through Ryan's portable translator, which emitted a series of clicks and whistles mimicking Valen's speech, Alex introduced himself and his team. "We come in peace," Ryan translated awkwardly, though the meaning seemed to get across. Zareth responded in kind, his voice a series of sharp chirps and low hums. After some back and forth, it became clear that the Valens were cautious, but willing to allow the humans to stay for now. Over the next few hours, the team set up a temporary base just outside the hive city. Tents were erected, equipment unpacked, and sensors deployed to monitor environmental conditions. While Daniel worked on assembling power generators, Lavra wandered closer to the hive, fascinated by its pulsating glow. She noticed small openings along the walls where younger Valens peeked out curiously before retreating quickly. Something about their behavior struck her as odd, not fearful exactly, but restrained, as if they wanted to approach but weren't allowed. Meanwhile, Alex accompanied Ryan to meet with Zareth again, hoping to learn more about Valen society. Inside the hive, the humans marveled at the intricate design of the interior. Bioluminescent veins ran along the walls, casting a soft light throughout the space. The Valens moved with purpose, each individual seemingly assigned specific tasks. When questioned about their way of life, Zareth explained through Ryan's device that the Valens valued unity above all else. Every decision was made collectively, with dissent discouraged to maintain harmony. It sounded admirable in theory, but Alex couldn't shake the feeling that something vital was missing. Back at the camp, tensions began to rise when Daniel accidentally damaged part of the hive's outer wall while testing a new energy converter. Sparks flew briefly, and several Valens rushed over, their chirps growing louder and more agitated. Zareth arrived shortly after, his tone firm as he addressed Alex. "Your actions disrupt balance," Ryan translated hesitantly. Alex apologized profusely, promising to fix the damage immediately. Though Zareth accepted the apology, his expression remained stern, a silent warning that any further mistakes would not be tolerated. Despite this setback, the day continued with cautious optimism. Rachel spent time teaching Lara, a young Valen healer, how to use portable lab equipment to analyze biological samples. Lyra listened intently, her eyes wide with wonder as she examined slides under a microscope. Lara, too, found herself drawn to the younger Valens, sensing a quiet yearning in them that contrasted sharply with the stoic demeanor of their elders. During a break, she confided in Ryan about her observations. "They're curious, maybe even eager to learn, but they're held back by these rigid rules," she said softly. Ryan nodded thoughtfully, recognizing the same restlessness among the younger members of the group. As night fell over Zoreth, the humans gathered around a makeshift fire, discussing the day's events. Daniel expressed frustration over the restrictions placed on them, arguing that progress required risks. "If they won't adapt, they'll never grow," he muttered darkly. Alex shot him a warning glance, reminding everyone of the importance of patience. Still, the incident weighed heavily on their minds. Little did they know, their actions had already planted seeds of change within the Valen community. Kale, a particularly bold young Valen, watched the humans from afar, intrigued by their confidence and resourcefulness. He wondered if perhaps there was another way forward, a path that balanced tradition with innovation. Though none of them realized it yet, the stage was set for transformation. What had started as a routine mission was rapidly evolving into something far greater. The humans had arrived expecting to observe and learn, but in less than 24 hours, they would leave behind a legacy that would reshape Valen society forever. For now, however, they focused on surviving the night, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface of this alien world. The next morning brought a fresh wave of activity as the humans resumed their efforts to build trust with the Valens. Alex led the team in unpacking additional supplies, ensuring everything was organized and ready for use. The atmosphere around the Hive City felt quieter than the previous day, almost as if the Valens were observing a collective pause. Lavra noticed this change immediately and wondered if it was due to the damage caused by Daniel's energy converter or something deeper. She decided to focus on her work, hoping that small gestures of goodwill might ease the tension. Ryan spent most of his time trying to improve communication between the two species. He sat cross-legged on the ground near the hive entrance, surrounded by young Valens who watched him with wide eyes. Using simple gestures and the translator device, he began teaching them basic Earth phrases like hello and thank you. At first, the Valens responded hesitantly, mimicking the sounds awkwardly, but soon their confidence grew. Kale, in particular, showed remarkable enthusiasm, repeating each word with precision and even attempting to string sentences together. Ryan smiled inwardly, realizing that these younger Valens were far more open-minded than their elders. Inside the hive, Rachel worked alongside Lyra, the healer, demonstrating how Earth's medical tools could diagnose illnesses quickly and accurately. Lyra marveled at the portable scanner, watching intently as Rachel explained its functions. "This can see inside your body without cutting it open," Rachel said, pointing to the screen where an image of Lyra's internal structure appeared. Lyra's claws twitched in amazement, and she turned to share the discovery with other healers nearby. Word spread rapidly among the Valens, drawing curious onlookers who whispered excitedly about the possibilities such technology offered. Meanwhile, Alex met with Zareth to discuss the damaged section of the hive wall. Despite assurances from Daniel that repairs would be swift and harmless, Zareth remained skeptical. He expressed concern that relying on human methods might undermine Valen traditions. which emphasized self-reliance and communal effort. Alex listened carefully, nodding respectfully while searching for a way to bridge the gap. "We don't want to replace your ways," he said through the translator. "We just want to help." Zareth considered this silently before finally agreeing to let Daniel proceed under strict supervision. Daniel approached the task with renewed determination, determined to prove himself after the earlier mishap. With Kale and a few other young Valens assisting, he carefully dismantled the damaged section and replaced it with reinforced materials from the ship. As they worked, Daniel couldn't help but notice how eager Kale was to learn. "Why do you care so much?" Daniel asked, gesturing toward the tools. Kale hesitated before responding, his voice soft but firm. "Because I believe we can do better than this," he said, indicating the rigid structures around them. His words struck a chord with Daniel, who realized that Kale represented a generation yearning for progress. Back at the camp, tensions simmered. Beneath the surface, some of the older Valens continued to eye the humans warily, their distrust evident in every cautious glance. Lavra observed this dynamic during her walks around the area, noting how the younger ones often lingered near the humans despite warnings from their elders. One evening, as she sat sketching plants in her notebook, a group of young Valens approached her tent shyly. They carried samples of local flora, offering them as gifts. Lavra accepted graciously, showing them how to identify different species. Using her field guide, their laughter filled the air, breaking the monotony of the day. That night, the humans gathered once again around the fire, sharing stories and reflecting on their experiences. Lavra recounted her interactions with the young Valens, describing their curiosity and warmth. "They remind me of kids back home," she said thoughtfully, eager to explore, unafraid to ask questions. Ryan nodded in agreement, adding that Kale seemed especially interested in Earth's history of innovation. "He kept asking about how we overcame challenges," Ryan explained. "It's like he's looking for inspiration." As the conversation deepened, Daniel voiced his growing frustration with Zareth's resistance to change. "These people are stuck in the past," he argued. "If they don't adapt, they'll never evolve." Alex shot him a warning look, reminding him of the importance of respecting cultural differences. Still, the sentiment lingered, echoing the same doubts harbored by many of the younger Valens. Unbeknownst to the humans, their presence had already sparked whispers of rebellion within the hive. Kale and his friends gathered in secret, discussing what they had learned from the visitors. They admired humanity's creativity and resourcefulness, qualities they felt were stifled by Valen traditions. "Why should we live like this when there's so much more out there?" Kale asked passionately. His companions nodded in agreement. Though fear of retribution kept them silent in public. By dawn, the mood in the hive city had shifted subtly. More young Valens ventured outside, seeking opportunities to interact with the humans. Some brought offerings of food, others shared fragments of their culture through dance and music. The humans responded warmly, reciprocating with gifts of their own books, trinkets, and even photographs of Earth. These exchanges created a sense of camaraderie that transcended language barriers, fostering connections neither side had anticipated. However, not everyone welcomed this newfound closeness. Zareth called an emergency meeting of the council, voicing concerns about the humans' influence. "They bring chaos disguised as progress," he warned, his tone sharp. Several elders echoed his sentiments, urging stricter measures to limit interaction. Yet dissenting voices emerged as well, arguing that rejecting new ideas outright was equally dangerous. The debate grew heated, revealing fractures within the leadership that had long been suppressed. Outside the hive, the humans remained unaware of the turmoil brewing within. Alex focused on maintaining diplomacy, meeting regularly with Zareth to address any issues. Rachel and Lara continued their collaborative projects, earning praise from the younger Valens. Ryan expanded his language lessons, teaching larger groups of eager learners. Daniel completed the repairs, earning grudging respect from the overseers. Each member of the team contributed in their own way, unknowingly planting seeds of transformation. That would soon bear fruit. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting Zorath in hues of purple and gold, Kale stood atop a glowing pathway, gazing toward the human camp. In his heart burned a spark of hope, a belief that change was possible, even inevitable. Though the road ahead would be fraught with challenges, he knew the humans had shown them a glimpse of what could be achieved. For the first time in his life, Kale dared to dream of a future where tradition and innovation coexisted harmoniously. And somewhere deep inside, he vowed to make that vision a reality. The third day on Zorath began with an uneasy calm, the kind that precedes a storm. The humans woke early, sensing a shift in the air around them. Alex gathered the team for a quick meeting before heading out, his expression serious. "Something's brewing," he said, glancing toward the hive city. "We need to stay sharp." Everyone nodded, understanding the weight of his words. The Valens had been unusually quiet overnight, and while the humans had no way of knowing what was happening inside the hive, they could feel the tension building. As the morning wore on, Kale became increasingly restless. He paced along the glowing pathways of the hive, his mind racing with thoughts of rebellion. The discussions he'd had with his friends the previous night had solidified his resolve, but fear still lingered at the edges of his consciousness. What if they failed? What if Zareth punished them severely for daring to challenge tradition? Despite these doubts, Kale knew he couldn't turn back now. The humans had shown him a world beyond the rigid confines of Valen society, and he wanted to share that vision with others. By midday, Kale made his move. Gathering a group of trusted allies, he approached the central chamber where the council often convened. Several elders were present, their carapaces gleaming under the bioluminescent lights. Kale hesitated for only a moment before stepping forward, his voice steady despite the fluttering in his chest. "We have listened to your teachings all our lives," he began, addressing the elders. "But we believe there is more to life than following old ways without question." His words caused a ripple of shock among the gathered Valens, some whispering urgently to one another, while others stared in disbelief. Zareth rose slowly from his seat, his multifaceted eyes narrowing. As he studied Kale, "You dare speak against the council?" he asked, his tone icy. Kale stood firm, refusing to back down. "I speak not against you, but for us," he replied, "for the future of our people." The room erupted into chaos as voices clashed, some supporting Kale's boldness while others condemned it as reckless defiance. Amid the commotion, Kale noticed a few younger Valens slipping away quietly, spreading the word of his challenge throughout the city. Outside, the humans observed the growing unrest with concern. Lavra and Ryan saw clusters of Valens gathering near the hive entrance, their movements hurried and purposeful. "This doesn't look good," Ryan muttered, adjusting his translator device nervously. Alex joined them shortly after, his brow furrowed. "We need to figure out what's going on," he said firmly. Leaving Daniel to monitor the camp, the trio cautiously approached the hive, hoping to mediate if necessary. Inside, the debate raged on. Zareth demanded order, his authoritative presence silencing most of the dissenters, at least temporarily. But Kale refused to yield, rallying those who shared his vision. "Why should we live in fear of change?" he asked passionately. "The humans have shown us tools and ideas that could improve our lives without destroying who we are." His words struck a chord with many, especially the younger generation, who had grown weary of stagnation. Even a few elders exchanged uncertain glances, their loyalty to tradition wavering under the weight of Kale's arguments. Back outside, the humans found themselves caught in the middle of the escalating conflict. A group of Enforcers Valens tasked with maintaining order blocked their path, their claws raised defensively. "You must leave," one of them said through Ryan's translator. "Your presence causes division." Alex tried to reason with them, explaining that they meant no harm, but the Enforcers remained unmoved. Frustrated, Alex signaled for the team to retreat. Unwilling to provoke further hostility, as tensions mounted, Kale took drastic action. Under cover of darkness, he led a small group of rebels to the human camp, seeking guidance. They arrived quietly, their glowing eyes betraying both fear and determination. Kale stepped forward, addressing Alex directly. "We want to change our society, but we cannot do it alone," he said earnestly. "Will you help us?" Alex hesitated, weighing the risks. Supporting the rebels could escalate the situation dangerously, but turning them away felt equally wrong. After a long pause, he nodded. "If you're willing to fight for peace, we'll stand with you," he replied. With the human support secured, Kale returned to the hive, emboldened. Early the next morning, he and his followers organized a peaceful demonstration in the heart of the city. Carrying banners made from bioluminescent vines, they marched through the glowing pathways, chanting slogans of unity and progress. Their message was clear: tradition and innovation could coexist. The sight of so many Valens standing together stunned even the most hardened skeptics. Some elders watched from the shadows, their expressions unreadable, while others joined the crowd. Lending their voices to the cause, Zareth responded swiftly, deploying Enforcers to disperse the protesters. Clashes broke out as the Enforcers attempted to restore order, their sharp claws clashing against the determined resistance of the rebels. Chaos reigned as shouts and chirps filled the air, the once peaceful city now a battleground of ideals. In the midst of the turmoil, Lavra and Rachel stepped forward, demonstrating nonviolent conflict resolution techniques they had learned on Earth. They linked arms with the protesters, forming a barrier between them and the Enforcers. Their actions inspired others to follow suit, creating a chain of solidarity that grew stronger with each passing moment. Daniel and Ryan worked tirelessly behind the scenes, using modified Valen communication systems to broadcast messages of unity across the city. Images of cooperation between humans and Valens played repeatedly on holographic screens, reinforcing the idea that change did not have to mean destruction. These visuals resonated deeply with the citizens, swaying undecided. Valens to join the movement. Even some elders began questioning whether clinging to the past truly served their people's best interests. By nightfall, the tide had turned decisively in favor of the rebels. Exhausted but resolute, Kale addressed the crowd, his voice ringing out clearly. "Today, we proved that our voices matter," he declared. "Tomorrow, we will build a future that honors both our heritage and our potential." Cheers erupted from the gathered Valens, their glowing eyes reflecting hope rather than fear. Zareth, realizing the futility of resisting such widespread support, reluctantly conceded to hold a council meeting to discuss reforms. As the humans watched from a distance, they felt a mix of pride and relief. They had come to Zoreth expecting to make first contact, yet they had inadvertently sparked a revolution. Though the outcome remained uncertain, one thing was clear: the seeds of transformation had taken root, nurtured by courage, collaboration, and a shared belief in the power of change. For the first time since their arrival, the humans allowed themselves to imagine a brighter future, not just for the Valens, but for all beings brave enough to embrace the unknown. The fourth day on Zoreth began with a fragile sense of hope, the kind that flickers like a flame in the wind. The humans woke early, their minds heavy with the events of the previous night. Alex gathered his team around the fire, his expression thoughtful as he reviewed what had happened. "We've crossed a line," he said quietly. "There's no going back now." Everyone nodded, understanding the gravity of their situation. The rebellion they had unintentionally sparked was gaining momentum, and the Valens were divided like never before. Inside the hive city, preparations for the council meeting were underway. Zareth moved through the glowing corridors with deliberate slowness, his carapace gleaming under the bioluminescent lights. He knew the stakes were high, and though he still believed in the importance of tradition, he couldn't ignore the growing unrest among his people. Young Valens buzzed with excitement, their voices echoing through the halls as they discussed the upcoming gathering. Kale stood at the center of it all, his confidence bolstered by the support he had received. For the first time, he felt truly alive, as if he were part of something greater than himself. As the sun rose over Zoreth, casting soft golden light across the landscape, the humans decided to remain close to the hive. They wanted to be available, if needed, but also cautious about overstepping. Lavra and Rachel spent the morning observing the younger Valens, who seemed more open and energetic than ever before. Some approached the humans eagerly, asking questions about Earth and its history. Lavra shared stories of human struggles and triumphs, emphasizing how societies evolved through cooperation and compromise. Her words resonated deeply, sparking animated discussions among the listeners. Meanwhile, Ryan worked tirelessly to refine the translation devices, ensuring they could handle the complexity of the council meeting. He collaborated with Kale and a few other young Valens, teaching them phrases that might help bridge gaps between opposing sides. Words are powerful, Ryan said, his voice calm yet firm. They can heal or harm, depending on how you use them. Kale nodded, absorbing every lesson as if preparing for battle. He understood that this meeting would determine the fate of his people, and he was determined to make his voice heard. Daniel stayed behind at the camp, monitoring the equipment and ensuring everything was secure. Though he wasn't directly involved in the political drama, he felt its weight nonetheless. As he tinkered with tools, his mind wandered to the repairs he had made to the hive wall. What had started as an accident had become a symbol of collaboration, proof that humans and Valens could work together when given the chance. He hoped the council would see that too. By midday, the atmosphere in the hive grew tense as Valens from all walks of life gathered in the central chamber. The room hummed with anticipation, the air thick with unspoken emotions. Zareth took his place at the head of the council, his presence commanding silence. Kale and his supporters stood nearby, their resolve unwavering despite the imposing figures surrounding them. Alex and his team waited outside, listening intently through the translator device as the debate unfolded. Zareth opened the meeting with a stern warning, reminding everyone of the dangers of abandoning tradition. Our ancestors built this society on unity and discipline, he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. To stray from their path is to invite chaos. His words drew murmurs of agreement from some elders, but others remained silent, their expressions unreadable. Kale stepped forward, his movements steady despite the weight of countless eyes upon him. Respect for our ancestors does not mean we must live in their shadow, he countered. We honor them best by learning from the past while embracing the future. The argument raged on, each side presenting its case with passion and conviction. Supporters of tradition emphasized stability and order, while advocates for change highlighted innovation and growth. The humans listened closely, marveling at the depth of emotion driving the debate. At one point, Zareth turned his attention to the humans, accusing them of deliberately sowing discord. Your arrival has disrupted everything we hold sacred, he said, his tone sharp. Through the translator, Alex responded calmly, explaining that their intention had always been peaceful. Change is inevitable, he added, but it doesn't have to destroy what you value. As the discussion continued, cracks began to form within the council itself. A few elders expressed doubts about maintaining the status quo, questioning whether rigid adherence to tradition truly served the greater good. One elder, whose name translated roughly to Silera, spoke up. Boldly, "Perhaps balance is the answer," she suggested. "We can preserve our heritage while adopting new ideas." Her words struck a chord, earning nods of agreement from both sides. Outside the hive, the humans watched anxiously, unsure how the meeting would conclude. Lavra noticed a shift in the behavior of the younger Valens, who seemed more confident and united than ever before. They gathered near the entrance, their glowing eyes reflecting determination rather than fear. "They're ready for whatever comes next," Lavra whispered to Ryan, her voice filled with admiration. Ryan nodded, realizing that the seeds of transformation had taken root far deeper than anyone had anticipated. Back inside, Kale seized the moment, rallying his supporters to propose concrete reforms. He suggested forming committees to explore new technologies, establishing educational programs to foster creativity, and creating channels for open dialogue between generations. His proposals were met with cautious optimism, even from some skeptics. Irith listened carefully, his expression inscrutable. When the meeting finally adjourned, he announced that further discussions would be held to evaluate the proposed changes. It wasn't a victory, but it wasn't a defeat either. It was progress. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting Zorath in hues of purple and gold, the humans reflected on the day's events. They had witnessed a society on the brink of transformation, torn between the comforts of tradition and the allure of progress. Alex addressed the team, his voice tinged with pride. "We didn't come here to change them," he said. "But sometimes just being present is enough to inspire change." Everyone agreed, knowing they had played a role, however small, in shaping the future of the Valens. Kale joined them briefly, expressing gratitude for their support. "You showed us that change is possible," he said earnestly. "Now it's up to us to make it happen." His words lingered in the air, a reminder that revolutions often begin with simple acts of courage and connection. As the humans prepared to leave the next day, they couldn't help but wonder what kind of world the Valens would build. For now, though, they focused on the journey home, carrying with them the knowledge that even the smallest actions could spark monumental change. The fifth and final day on Zorath dawned with a strange mix of calm and anticipation. The humans woke early, their thoughts heavy with the knowledge that it was time to leave. Alex gathered the team around the fire one last time, his expression thoughtful as he reviewed the events of the past days. "We came here to make contact," he said softly, "but we ended up leaving something behind." Everyone nodded, understanding that their actions had sparked a transformation far greater than they had imagined. The Valens were no longer the same society they had encountered upon arrival, and neither were the humans. Inside the Hive City, preparations for the humans' departure were underway. Kale moved through the glowing corridors with purpose, ensuring that everything was ready for a proper farewell. The younger Valens buzzed with energy, eager to express their gratitude before the visitors left. Some carried gifts fragments of bioluminescent vines, intricate carvings, and small tokens of their culture. Others rehearsed songs and dances, determined to honor the humans who had inspired them to dream of a better future. Even Zareth seemed more subdued, his earlier hostility giving way to a grudging respect for what had been achieved. As the morning wore on, the humans began packing their equipment, careful to leave no trace of their presence behind. Daniel double-checked the repairs he had made to the hive wall, ensuring they would hold up without further intervention. Lavra and Rachel spent their final hours teaching the young Valens how to use the tools and techniques they had shared, emphasizing the importance of patience and practice. Ryan worked with Kale and his friends, refining their understanding of Earth's language and communication methods. "Words are bridges," he reminded them. "Use them wisely." By midday, the humans stood near their spacecraft, surrounded by a crowd of Valens who had come to see them off. The atmosphere was bittersweet, filled with both sadness and hope. Kale stepped forward, his glowing eyes reflecting gratitude and determination. "You have given us a gift beyond measure," he said, his voice steady despite the emotions swirling within him. "You showed us that change is not something to fear, but something to embrace." Alex responded warmly, shaking Kale's claw. Gently, "The credit belongs to you and your people," he replied. "We only helped light the spark." Zareth approached next, his demeanor more composed than in previous encounters. Through Ryan's translator, he acknowledged the role the humans had played in awakening his people. "Your arrival disrupted our way of life," he admitted. "But perhaps disruption was what we needed." His words drew murmurs of agreement from those gathered, a sign that even the most traditional Valens were beginning to see the value of progress. Alex nodded respectfully, knowing that true change would take time and effort, but feeling confident that the Valens were on the right path. As the humans boarded their spacecraft, they took one last look at the Hive City and the glowing plains beyond. The sight was breathtaking, a reminder of the beauty and complexity of Zoreth. Inside the ship, they strapped themselves into their seats, their hearts heavy with the weight of what they were leaving behind. Lavra glanced out the viewport, watching. As the Valens waved farewell, their glowing forms growing smaller as the craft descended. "Do you think they'll be okay?" she asked softly. Alex smiled faintly, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "They're stronger than they know," he replied. "And they have each other." The journey home was quiet, each member of the team lost in their own thoughts. Daniel tinkered with tools absent-mindedly, replaying moments from the mission. In his mind, Lavra sketched scenes from Zorath in her notebook, capturing the vibrant colors and intricate details of the alien world. Ryan reviewed recordings of his interactions with the Valens, marveling at how much they had learned in such a short time. Rachel stared out the window, reflecting on the resilience of the young Valens and their unwavering belief in a brighter future. Alex, too, found himself reflecting on the mission. He thought about Kale and the courage it must have taken to challenge tradition, about Zareth and the difficult decisions he faced as a leader, and about the countless Valens who had dared to dream of something more. He realized that their brief visit had planted seeds of change that would continue to grow long after they were gone. It was a humbling thought, a reminder that even the smallest actions could have profound consequences. When they finally returned to Earth, the team was greeted with excitement and curiosity. News of their mission spread quickly, sparking debates about humanity's role in shaping alien societies. Some praised their efforts, calling them pioneers of interstellar diplomacy. Others criticized their involvement, arguing that they had interfered where they didn't belong. But Alex and his team remained steadfast in their belief that connection and collaboration were essential to progress. They shared their experiences openly, hoping to inspire others to approach the unknown with empathy and understanding. In the months that followed, reports from deep space probes hinted at changes on Zoreth. The Hive cities glowed brighter than before, and patterns of activity suggested growth and innovation. Though the humans couldn't confirm it directly, they liked to imagine that Kale and his generation were leading their people toward a future that honored both tradition and progress. They often gathered to discuss these possibilities, their conversations filled with pride and wonder. One evening, as they sat around a fire under Earth's starry sky, Alex spoke the words that had been on all their minds. "Sometimes you don't realize the impact you've had until you're looking back," he said quietly. "We went to Zoreth thinking we'd learn about them, but in the end, they taught us just as much, if not more." Everyone nodded, their hearts full of gratitude for the experience. They knew they would carry the lessons of Zoreth with them forever, reminders of the power of connection and the boundless potential of change. As the fire crackled softly in the night, the team fell silent, gazing upward at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a distant planet bathed in golden light, a society was evolving, shaped by the courage of its people and the fleeting presence of visitors from another world. And though they might never return to Zorth, the humans knew. They had left a legacy, a spark of hope that would continue to shine brightly across the galaxy.